Okay, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for coming online and in person. As we said last time, we're going to change topic. We're going to start now Hovot HaLevavot. We are not going to see the whole book. It's a very long book. We are going to concentrate in two things. The introduction and what it's called Sha'ar HaBitachon, which is always like the highlight of the book. I looked around in the internet a little bit. I found many classes or series of classes about Sha'ar HaBitachon, no classes about any other part of the book. No, there are, but it's the main part. I'm going to explain a little bit more about it later. And after that, I think we're going to do each time like part of books, not, but it's going to take time. So yeah, we're going to talk about the future. Now, okay, so Sefer Chovot HaLevavot, or Torat Chovot HaLevavot, this is the full name, the Torah of the Duty of the Hearts. It was written by Rabbeinu Bachya ibn Pekoda. There is Machloket Ashkenazim, Sfaradim, how to say his name. Rabbeinu Bechayeh or Rabbeinu Bachya. And apparently it's Rabbeinu Bachya, the same as Ichya, it's an Arabic name. Many times people are confused between him and other Rabbeinu Bachya that lived 200 years later in the same city, Saragossa, in Spain. What? My phone is in the office. I'm calling? Just a second.
Okay. Hi. I suddenly walked into a NCSY gathering.
Who's the other person? Ken.
Karen, he said it was Rabbi
Sorry.
Bachya.
Rabbeinu Bachya. Yeah.
Bachya.
Okay.
Yeah?
What?
Bachya.
לא ברכיה, בחיה, בחיה.
Oh, Bachya.
Yeah, Bachya.
I was excited for a minute there.
What?
I was excited a little bit. I'm Chia.
Yeah. You are Chia. Yeah, no, so it's not you. Anyway, there is other Rabbeinu Bachya that lived 200 years later in the same place. Is Rabbeinu Bachya that wrote the Perush on the Torah. It's 200 years later, but Rabbeinu Bachya ibn Pakoda, he lived in Spain of the 11th century. Recently we had a class, introduction class on Rabbi Yehuda HaLevi from Sefer HaKuzari. It's also from Spain in the same time, more or less, 11th century, but in other part of Spain. So we know very little about the person. We don't know anything almost about the person. The only thing that we know about him that he was Dayan. Dayan meaning judge in rabbinic court, right? That means in order to be Dayan in one of the most important cities in Spain, you must also know a lot of halakha. It's only give us a little bit of understanding that it wasn't only philosopher or person of thought of like ethical. He was also a rabbi. He was very knowledgeable in halakha, in laws, apart from his book. So his book is focused about other things that I'm going to speak soon. But first, I usually like to give the historical background of where he lived, what's happening this time in Spain. So this is exactly the time that it's called Torah Zahav in Spain, which is the time when the Judaism in Spain flourished in all aspects. Very rich community, intellectual community, political involved community. It was like the best time in the history of Spain, and specifically in Saragossa, in the zone of Saragossa, it was even more than that. So Spain was divided between the Christian and the Muslims, and the Saragossa was a kingdom of the moderate Muslims, not the extreme Muslim, the very moderate, open-minded, intellectual, Islam, something that a little bit missing today. They were maybe the leading in everything, in philosophy, in science. They were huge, um, a huge project of translating the Greek philosophers to Arabic in this town. And in this, they were there were a very good relationship with the Christian, managed with the more extreme Muslims. So they built like a place of intellectual freedom, when Jews, Christian, and Muslim could change opinions and learn from each other and discuss from each other. So we can find in Sefer Rabbeinu Bachya influence of different Muslim streams of philosophy and thought. But having saying that, in the academy, they are emphasizing and looking for what are the sources of influence. This is a very, very Jewish book. It's not Muslim thing. It's not a converted Muslim philosophy. It's very, very Jewish. It looks like he knew very well all the sources outside and inside Judaism, and he created a very, very unique, you see, Yetzirah, a unique
Creation.
masterpiece. Yeah, masterpiece, like it's a good Yetzirah, but Yetzirah,
Creation.
creation, no, it's not a word in English.
Right.
Yetzirah, like you say, Yetzirat Amanut, Yetzirat Safrut, piece of art, I don't know. What?
Masterpiece.
Yeah, masterpiece is when something, in Hebrew, Yetzirah is something that was created by artist or something. It can be a very good one, and then you call it masterpiece. It can be just regular, and then it's just Yetzirah. So it's a masterpiece, but yeah, it's not the word I looked for. What? Creation. Okay, yeah, creation can be. So it's a very unique creation. It's actually maybe the first in its kind. And it starts what we called later Safrut HaMusar, the literature of Jewish ethics. We learned in the last years book Mesilat Yesharim, which is maybe the most influential book in this kind of literature. That is what it was written 500 years later. And the first book of its kind is the book of Hovot HaLevavot. And what does it mean, Musar? Musar is the part of the Torah that try to teach how to build the righteous person, how to create the righteous person. What are the things that should be done in order to become a righteous or Hasid, pious person, right? It's not like, for example, learning the Gemara. Learning Gemara, usually it's focused on what is the law, or what is the process of creating the law. So it's more focused on the details of the law, usually. You can learn Chumash when you learn the psukim, the verses, the different kind of interpretation. All of that may have influence on the ethics and the behavior, etc., but it's not focused on the process of creating the ideal person, I would say. How do you create the ideal person? What are the traits that he has to adapt? What are the things that he has to change in his personality? What is this personality that we are looking for? So that we can divide it for two. What is what we are trying to achieve? What kind of person we are trying to achieve? So what midot he should have? What characteristic he should have? He should be modest. He should be reshamayim. Maybe he should be happy, or he should be very self-controlled. So there are many characteristics that we should investigate how it's. And then the second question, which is not less important, even maybe more important, is how to arrive there. After I know I want to be modest, for example, or I want to be generous, how I work on myself in order to arrive to be this ideal person, right? So this is Musar. This is generally the definition of Musar. So it's creating the personality, the definition of the desired personality, and the way to arrive there. But the fact that we are speaking about how to create this kind of personality, it's already skipping the question, what is the most important in a man, in a person? What is the center of the righteous person? And in this case, I will present three opinions. One of them Rambam, One of them, Moreno Kuzari, and the third one is Rabbeinu Bachya. And even though I present it as three different, it's not necessarily that they disagree. So everybody agrees that all aspects are important, but each one of them put more emphasis on other aspect. So, the basic question is how you create the ideal person according to the Torah. What is the main part that you should work on? And if you are looking on Rambam will emphasize the intellectual work. So the main part of human being is sechel, it's intelligence, it's brain, it's understanding, and this is how you become tzaddik. You have to work on your understanding of God, understanding of the Torah, understanding of the world. So by intellectual work, you are achieving to the ultimate goal of being a person that is connected with God, connected with eternity, right? This is a little bit influenced from the Greek philosophy, Aristotle and other, but it's totally Jewish. Rambam based on Midrash Chachamim, on verses, etc. But the focus is on the understanding. Does it mean that the action is not important? No. Rambam will tell you, you have to keep all the mitzvot and make all the mitzvot because Hashem ordered you. It's part of the process of creating this person, this ideal person. But what is the ultimate goal? What is what you're trying to achieve? You're trying to achieve the intellectual understanding of God, of reality and God and the Torah. So this is, I would say that the emphasis in the case of Rambam is the understanding, the sechel, the intellect. While we're going to see later in Sefer Kuzari, in the classes of Shabbat, he puts the emphasis, he is rejecting the idea that the sechel is the most important, that the intellect is most important. We already started seeing that in the beginning of the book, but he is saying that the way we can be connected, attached to God, like the ideal person for all opinions, is a person that is attached to God, is connected with God. And what is the way to arrive there? The action, the mitzvot. Right? The mitzvot are the orders of God. How you create this connection with God, that is what we are trying to achieve. So the ultimate, again, goal is the action. The action is the most important. You must make the mitzvot. That's the only way. The mitzvot cannot be achieved, or you cannot arrive to the answer of what is the right action, what are the right deeds, without the help of God. Only God can know and knows what is the actions that will lead you to this purpose. And He told you what are the actions that should be done. This is the mitzvot, and the only way to achieve your goals, and the main part, the center of the religion work, is doing the actions. So the action is more important. You cannot understand any word of philosophy. You can be a person that doesn't understand anything about what does it mean God, or what does it mean all the philosophical metaphysics questions that Rambam speaks about in Moreh Nevuchim, and still achieve the ultimate goal of being ideal person or perfect person, like the perfection of human being, by following strictly all the actions that should be done according to the Torah. So again, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is not against understanding. He's not against what Rambam says, that the intellect is the main part of human being. But he said that the way, or the center of our religious work, is the action that was said by God. So this way I can say the two extremes, Rambam and Kuzari. Not in the middle, but in different way of understanding. Rabbeinu Bachya put the emphasis, or the center of the religion work, on the hearts. That's what the heart. The book is called The Duties of the Heart. And what is saying, and we're going to see that in the Akadama, in the introduction to the book, with a lot of details, that people are too focused in the actions, and the actions are related to the body. And we are a combination of body and soul. The soul is the inside part, and the body is the outside part. All the mitzvot, all the actions are in the body, in the outside part. But not less important, and is going to bring proof that more important is your intention, is your kavanah. meaning the duties of the heart. How do you feel? So, and this we can divide for two. There are things that you should feel, or I don't know, it's not exactly the word feel, but to live in your soul, that for themselves as a purpose. For example, love of God, fear of God, Ahavat Hashem, Yirat Hashem. The things that are not related to any action, but them for themselves are the obligation, the duty of the heart. And he says they are not less important, as they are even more important than the other mitzvot. Love of God is mitzvah in the Torah. It says, "Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha." We are saying that every day in the tefillah. We have a mitzvah to love God. How are we doing this mitzvah? How much effort a regular religious person dedicate in his daily life to make the mitzvah of loving God? Right? Not a lot. We are dedicated a lot of time putting tefillin or giving tzedakah, which are all very, very important. But when was the last time you made the mitzvah of loving God? Or how do you even make it? How can you do this mitzvah? But this is a mitzvah. We say that in the tefillah every day. Right? So there are the duty, and it's interesting that if you read, for example, the words of Moshe Rabbeinu in Parashat Ekev, very famous words that also Mesilat Yesharim based the book on that. מה השם אלוקיך שואל ממך כי אם ליראה את השם אלוקיך ולעובדו בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך. I don't remember exactly all the verse, but it says, what Hashem asks from you? He asks for you to fear Him, to love Him, to go in His ways, and to make all the mitzvot. So only 1 out of 5 is making the mitzvot. All the other things are related to the heart. So I'm a little bit doing that earlier. The necessary is going to explain that with a lot of proofs and details, that the center, again, the center of the worship of God or the religious action in the world is not in the action. Again, not that you don't have to do the deeds, the actions, the mitzvot. Of course, you have to do all of them. But it's not the center. The center is the heart. The mitzvot of the heart are not less, and even they are more important than mitzvot of the body. And the second part, that was the first part, what I said, right? The mitzvot that are for themselves in the heart, that you can only make them in your heart. The second part is that also the mitzvot that you are doing with the body, you must do that with the right intention, with the right kavanah. So if you are, so you have to do the mitzvot out of love of God, out of fear of God. If you are only doing the action without any part of your feelings, of your spiritual world, right, your emotions and your all the things that are going inside in your heart, so the action itself is much less powerful, or it's not what you have to do. This is related to halachic questions. There is a question about mitzvot tzrichot kavanah, mitzvot enan tzrichot kavanah. It's a halachic discussion in the Gemara, meaning when you're doing mitzvah, do you have to have the kavanah of making the mitzvah? What does it mean? If, for example, the Gemara speaks about, for example, you are in Rosh Hashanah and you like music, so you are blowing the shofar in order to make a nice voice. And by accident, randomly, it was exactly Tkiya Shvarim Tkiya. So you didn't mean to do the mitzvah at all, but the action is the action. Are you Yotzei the Chovot or not Yotzei the Chovot? So this is a halachic question, and it doesn't matter what is the halacha in the end, but we can see that there can be some kind of approach that's saying the action for itself is good enough. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't involve any internal work, any internal deed, action, right? It's only the physical action in the world. So there is some kind of opinion like that. And others require more kavanah, at least the kavanah of I'm doing mitzvah right now. So you don't have to have all the kavanot of shofar, of, I don't know, fear of God, or the day of justice, or crowning the king, or making the king, or whatever kavanot that we are saying in all the drashot and the explanation of what is the reason that we are having shofar. Even if you don't have all these kavanot, at least you need kavanah of I'm doing now the will of God. I'm doing now a mitzvah. Without this basic kavanah, you're not doing anything. The action is like, we call that ma'aseh kof, a deed of a monkey, right? A monkey can put feeling. It won't be considered a mitzvah, right? It's meaningless. There's no soul that the action is influenced by effect in any way. So the action without any kind of kavanah is nothing. But if you have the minimum of kavanah, of intention, I'm doing now the will of God, this is good enough that you at least did the mitzvah. But is it really enough? If you want to, again, what is the center of your religious action? If you're going to want to arrive to work on yourself in order to arrive to a level of perfection, it's not enough only to do the deeds, say Rabbeinu Bachya. You must involve the heart, the duty of the heart. Okay, so if we are taking these three approaches, all of them are important, all of them are based. I think that the approach that maybe took the leading place is Rabbeinu Bachya. So everybody agrees that it's important to learn and understand. Everybody agrees that it's important to make all the mitzvot. But I think that it's quite acceptable today, or most of the people agree, that actions that are meaningless, that not involve any emotional or spiritual work, are much less than those who are involved. So it should involve all the aspects of the person, of the soul of the person, including the internal, the heart. Okay, and this is what Sefer Hovot HaLevavot brought to the world. So it's the first Sefer, it's the first book that is totally concentrated in Musar, in ethics. Even though there is also a little bit of philosophy, it's not the first book that it's not halachic books. There are other books, maybe the first one is Emunot Vedeot of Rav Saadia Gaon. This is the first book that was dedicated to the thought, right, the machshava of the Jewish, but it's the first book that most of it is about ethics, about Musar, because it says that if the center of the religion work, religion action is the heart, right? The Musar, the way we are feeling about it. So this is maybe the main idea of the book that we are going to see with more details. So the book itself is divided to 10 she'arim, 10 gates, we can say, 10 parts. It's also a symbolic number. It's a sphirot. So he described it as 10 steps that you have to take until you arrive to your perfection. Very similar to Mesilat Yesharim, right? Mesilat Yesharim gives you the midot you have to adapt in order to arrive to Ruach HaKodesh, to arrive to the perfection. You also have these 10 steps. What is the last step? What is the highest level that you can arrive? Ahavat Hashem, love of God. Love of God is the highest level that can be achieved by a religious man, in the religious path. And this book was accepted and recommended by everybody. It's interesting to see, as I read that some researcher he wrote, it's an example of a person disappeared, the book survived. When we don't know anything about Rabbeinu Bachya, we don't even have stories about him. We don't know anything about him, but the book survived in a way that is one of the most accepted books in Judaism, one of the most learned, apart from the Gemara and Chumash, etc. So when you're talking about books that are philosophical or ethical books, it's one of the most important. For example, Rav Kook, when he started his yeshiva in Merkaz Arav, he was one of the first that said the idea that you have to dedicate time not only to learning Gemara, but also to learn the Jewish thought. And he named 5 books that are the most important in Jewish thought, philosophy. The 5 are Emunot Vedeot of Rav Saadia Gaon. If you're going according to the historical order, then Rabbeinu Bachya, Chovot HaLevavot, Kuzari of Rabbi Yehuda HaLevi, More Nevuchim of Rambam, and Sefer HaIkarim of Rabbi Yosef Elbo. Some would disagree with the last one. It's not in the same as the other four. But he named Sefer Hovot HaLevavot as one of the five most important book in Jewish thought, right? מחשבה יהודית. And not only him, they said about Ari HaKadosh, that he told his students, you must dedicate every day at least few minutes to learn Musar, especially Sefer Hovot HaLevavot, specifically that. And Gra also says to his students, you must learn Sefer Chovot HaLevavot. So all the great rabbis say to the students, you must learn this book, is very important because it's working on yourself, working on your personality, on your character. But almost all of them, Rav Kook and Gra, also said, apart from Shar HaYichud, the first Shar. The first Shar, they say, don't learn the first Shar. We're not going to learn, but I will explain you that. But not because I'm afraid, or I will explain you why, and you will understand. But for example, Gra said this famous sentence of the Gaon Mivina. He said you should learn Sefer Chovot HaLevavot apart from Shar HaYichud. Instead of Shar HaYichud, you should learn Sefer HaKuzari. So Sefer HaKuzari replace Shar HaYichud. But so what is Shar HaYichud? As part of the work on the heart, you should also, one of the mitzvot is believe in God. In order to believe in God, you must understand that God exists, and that what does it mean, God, and how it's related to the world, etc. So this is the first shar. The first shar is a philosophical, we can say, creation for itself, that meant to prove the existence of God, and the existence that he gave the Torah, and that is related, all the things that are related to the philosophy, to the metaphysics, we can say that. Now, in this part, he is very, very influenced from from what we call the rational Islam, the Klam. This was a stream in the Islam that was very rational, very philosophical, and they made proofs of God. And this is exactly where the Kuzari took the main place. What we are learning in Kuzari is how to connect to our faith, not through the philosophical explanation, right? So this is exactly when most of the rabbis said, don't learn that part. Some say, not them, but some say it's not allowed to learn that because it's philosophy, and it's not allowed to learn that. So, for example, I have a book in my house on Sefer HaLevavot that with interpretation. So he wrote there, because the rabbis ordered not to learn this part, I'm not writing the interpretation on this part, but I will copy you other interpretation that was written about that. So some say you shouldn't learn that. Others say it's not that it's not allowed, but it's useless. Instead of learning that, it's better to learn Kuzari, which explains better the approach to philosophy, or to the metaphysics of Judaism. So that's the reason we don't, the recommendation is not to learn Shar HaYichud. I tell you that I tried to learn that several times. It's really hard to understand. The Hebrew is really hard, and the philosophical arguments are not very convincing. Maybe for that time, it was convincing. But I think for today, it's really what we know about reality, what we know about the world, and all. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I cannot judge it because I didn't understand that very well. So I can't judge if it's wrong. But I don't think it's going to convince anyone, oh, you know what? I believe in God now after reading that. It's not a thing that will bring people to believe. So that's the reason it's already very, very old approach of philosophy, I would say that. So apart from this part, the first chapter, Shar HaYichud, the rest of them focus more on, again, the internal part of Avodat Hashem, of the worship of God. He based all the mitzvot you should do out of gratitude for God, being grateful for God. And then, in order to be grateful for God, you must learn how gracious is, gracious. So you have to learn about the world, about human being, about the body, biology, right? It brings you to understand how good is God, and then it will bring you, and then out of that you have to serve God. not out of obligation or any other kind of interest. And then it's continue like that, showing different things that you should develop the right kind of seeing the world or understanding the world. And like I said before, maybe the most celebrated part is Sha'ar HaBitachon, because Sha'ar HaBitachon speaks about the right approach to life. What we have to, it's if you want to go in the academic way, it's influenced by the Sufis, it is Sufism approach, and but not only, I would say also Stoicism, right? When you must learn how to accept the things that you can change and live peacefully with them, and from the other side, how to work and make an effort to do the things that you are obligated. So he divided the world to different things that you should let it go, let it be, things that you should make your best effort, and how to accept the things that are not in your control, under your control. So this is Sha'ar HaBitachon, to have confidence in God, that God leading the world in the right way. So I think this is more or less what I wanted to say in the introduction. Any comments or questions?
Was it written in Hebrew?
No, it's the same as Sefer HaKuzari. It was written in what we call Arabic, Jewish, Jew-Arabic. I don't know exactly. Yeah, that was the language that most of the books in this time were written, the Jewish books. It was translated by the same family that translated Sefer HaKuzari, Ibn Tibon, in this case Rabbi Yehuda Ibn Tibon. And this was a translation that brought this book to the wider Jewish world. And today, again, we have more modern translations. The same as translated the Kuzari. For example, Rav Kapach translated it and other. So there are some more modern, but we are going to use a classic version, right?
How does it
Rabbi, is the Kuzari the one we're reading on Shabbat?
What?
Yes.
Is the Kuzari the one we're reading on
Yeah,
Shabbat?
Kuzari is what we're learning on Shabbat, yeah. Yes, what is,
How is it related?
how it's related to Mitzvah Rishon?
How does that?
It's the source of, I don't know if it's the source of Mitzvah Rishonim, but he started this branch of the rabbinical literature of teaching. I don't teach you halachot. I'm not giving you interpretation for the Chumash. I'm teaching you how to work on your personality. And this is the same. The two things are the same. There are many ideas that are similar, some others that are different, but this is, I would say, in the purpose of what you're trying to achieve, it's the same idea. It's what we call ethical book, Jewish ethics. Right.
Was it influenced at all by Bachya?
Yeah, of course. Pirkei Avot is a source. If we want to say that a little bit more wider, we can say is we have in the Tanakh we have Sefer Mishlei that is dedicated to personality, to midot. In the Mishnah we have Pirkei Avot, and then we have in the Gemara it's mostly Midrashim, and then we have a big void, big space without anything until 11th century. That was the first book that was in the same time. Ibn Gviro, that also lived in Saragossa in Spain, also wrote about Sefer Midot HaNefesh, also ethical books. But for now, this was the first that was accepted and famous about ethics. Yes, Karen, you wanted to ask something? You have to get unmute. Just a second, I will unmute you.
All right, I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Now I can't remember what I wanted to ask. So would you suggest that we do not read the first part of the book?
You can read it. I mean, no damage can be done from reading it. I don't think you're going to enjoy it, let's say. You can read it. I mean, it's written, it's published, no censors and anything.
So even if we read it, okay. So are you going to be doing the book in order, but not the
No, I'm
first
not
part?
going to teach all the book. No, I'm going to focus on the introduction and the chapter on bitachon.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
At the beginning, when you started the introduction, you said there were different approaches. And you said there was one by the Rambam, which is more intellectualized, one by the Kuzari that we got learning, which is more by actions.
Yeah, deeds.
This one, you said the heart. So in this kind of mapping, where Hasidut is sitting.
Hasidut is very influenced by Hovot HaLevavot. Yeah, it also was one of the important book for the Hasidim to learn. Yeah, it's very similar. It's I would say their approach.
Because it's like intermediate, like no middle, like direct connection kind of a thing.
There's no direct connection because there are 600 years of difference between
No,
them.
I mean, sorry,
In the-
direct connection between the person who believes and between God without any,
Intermediate.
yes.
I understand.
In Hasidut,
Yeah.
that it's about a direct connection with God without like in a way without more like institution and laws and whatnot. And maybe
I'm not sure. For example, they need the Rebbe. So there, it's not so. Again, everybody agrees that the actions, the deeds are very important. Everybody agrees. There's no discussion about that. But yes, the Hasidut said, don't only, you shouldn't only stick with the formalities. You should walk as your God with your heart. You should worship God with your heart, not only with your action. Judaism became very technical, routine, boring actions that you have to do. And the Hasidut fought against that. And he also fought against that. So in that sense, they are very similar. Yeah. And again, it was a main important book for Hasidim. Hasidim used this book as source of knowledge and for their approach also. Yeah, we have to go to the tefillah now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.